You're listening to the Empath Now Podcast. Be sure to stop by empathnow.com and sign up for the free Empath Now Empowerment Source. The Empath Now Empowerment Source is filled with free tools and resources to help you become more empowered as an empath. And this is your host, Tara McGillicuddy, and yes, I am finally back with a new podcast episode, and I'm sure as all of you know, the past few months has been up and down and crazy and energy-wise, and I wasn't quite sure what to come on and say. And I'd have a thought, and then something else would happen in the world. I'm like, I don't know if that's appropriate to talk about, or, maybe that's something to talk about at a different time. But what I've been really guided to talk about this week is manifestation as an empath, manifesting things. And most of us, I'm not going to say all because I'm sure there's somebody that does not fit into this category, but most of us as empaths are great at manifesting. A lot of us are instant manifestors. I know some people are saying, but no, I never get what I want. And there's a reason for that, or maybe something connected to that. As empaths, sometimes we end up manifesting things we don't want, or negative things, and most of the time, or probably all of the time, it's unintentional. And a lot of it has to do with what we allow in our life, what we absorb from others, and the thoughts we think, the words we use. And the way the world is set up, it's very negative. And our language, the way people say things and do things is very negative, and it can really interfere with manifesting. And I know there's a lot of programs out there, books on how to manifest, and I've gone through a few of them. I'm not an expert on, what's in these programs, what's in these classes or books, but one of the things that can often be left out is the fact that you can be blocked or you can manifest something you don't want unintentionally if you're not limiting, blocking, or paying attention to your language or the things you watch on the news or what you hear from other people. So you could be taking one of these manifestation programs or classes or groups, be following it to a T, but if you have other stuff coming in and interfering, or you're not changing your language or being cognizant or aware of your language, not only are you not going to manifest what you wanted to, what you intended to in the program, you may get the opposite. And one of the words that we use in everyday language that can really block us and set us back is the word need. And if you're talking about, I need a glass of water, I need to breathe, that, makes sense to say that. But a lot of us, when we want something, when it's time to do something, I need to do that. And I do it, I catch myself. One of the things, I have a computer that's a few years old. It's pretty close to time to getting a new computer. But what would happen, or what can happen, if I sit down at my computer and I'm like, I need to get a new computer. Or I'm talking to someone and I'm like, I need to get a new computer. Yeah, I am going to need to get a computer. My computer that's on its last leg, the possibility that it's going to get worse. And I'm really going to need a computer and not have one. That's something that could really happen. So an example of, how to change the wording and not use the word need is I could say, maybe it's time to get a new computer. I would benefit from getting a new computer. Or put a question, is now the right time to get a computer? What type of new computer should I get? And if you notice, just listening to me say those words, my energy is changing, and I'm putting out affirmations, positive, instead of saying, I need this. Because if you need it, if I need to get a computer, I might need to get a computer in the middle of doing an online program. And that's not going to really, be great for me. So need is one that's really, and it's it's somewhat of a neutral world when you think of it, but the way a lot of us use it in everyday language, it becomes negative, and it sets us back, holds us back, and we can end up manifesting the need instead of the intention or the desired outcome. So that's something to pay attention to. And then the other way our language is set up, everyday world, is people are against everything. People are anti this, anti that. And from a universal law perspective, from an energetic perspective, from a manifesting perspective, that does not work. You get more of what you're against. You get more of what you're of the anti whatever, because the way language works, if you're anti-violence and you're talking about anti-violence all the time, you may very well create more violence. It sounds crazy, but the way language is set up, the vibration, the universal law, and all that, is the universe, your subconscious, doesn't really pay attention to the not, to the anti, to the non. It only hears, or it only focuses on the word before, or about the word after the not or the anti. So with everything going on in the world right now, there's craziness. Instead of being anti anything or against anything or protesting anything, focus on the desired outcome. Like with stuff going on in the world, and I'm not going to say the words because there's a lot of triggers people, and I'm just not going to get into a lot of the words of the details of what's going on in the world right now. But what do you want to see? What is the desired outcome? Yes, there's some injustices. Things are unfair. People are going through things that they should not be going through. Instead of focusing on the problem, focus on what the desired outcome is. And if we do this as a group, I know some people think, yeah, that's not going to work, but try it. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen if you sit and focus, meditate, journal, talk about the desired outcome? I mean, more than likely it can help, but it's definitely not going to hurt. And then also think about the solutions, be creative. Think about, instead of what people are doing right now that is not working, instead of arguing, instead of telling people they need to think the way you do, they need to put up the same hashtag as you do, and calling them out for not using a certain term. What is a solution? That's not a solution. That's something everyone's doing that's just not working. But what is a new creative solution to getting people to live in peace, to getting people to be equal and treated fairly? Or, like I said in the beginning, think about the desired outcome. Picture everyone living happily, it's, the songs and all that, and also limit what you allow into your space. And I know I talk about how bad the news is, but it's not just the news, it's some of the movies we watch. And we can watch something, and especially those of us who are empaths and intuitive, we are, like I said, we are great at manifesting. And if we're watching something negative, whether we know as intelligent people it's fiction and it's not real, it still is in our energetic field. It is still in our brain. And, people talk about predictive programming, like The Simpsons. You probably heard that, such and such was on The Simpsons 20 years ago and it happened. What's up with that? Is that somebody, who was looking into the future? Did we as a society create it because we all watched it? And, I don't know. There's something to it. I don't have the solution, the answers, but if there's that possibility that if we're all watching people killing each other, zombies, the shows that were really huge a few years ago, what if we, by just watching it and allowing it into our energy and our brain, are making it happen? So just be aware, pay attention, not only to letting the news in or not letting the news in, but what are you binge watching on Netflix? What do you have on in the background when you're cooking dinner? And, those shows are addictive. They're entertaining. They stimulate the brain. But not only as empaths are we letting in that negativity that we're going to feel the energy, if we are also great at manifesting, and a lot of us are becoming instant manifestors now, it's almost like, it's wrong to watch those shows. And I'm not saying I never watch anything negative. I, try not to anymore, but think about it before you watch it. And, think about what I just said about the predictive programming type thing. Is that something that you connect with? Does that make sense to you? But, getting back to the positives of manifesting, we really can, whether it's for ourselves, if we do it right, put something out there in the affirmative, in the positive, put out gratitude for it, or ask a question. We can bring more healing into the world. We can bring more peace into the world. And yeah, it might not happen like 10 minutes after we ask for it, but there really is something to this healing, this manifesting, this as a group, the group consciousness, focusing on positive instead of negative. And just really be careful and cognizant of what you're thinking, the words you are using, and what you are allowing into your energy and your consciousness. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Empath Now podcast. And be sure to stop by empathnow.com because I've been doing webinars. The next webinar or online event is on June 11th, and it's a group clearing and healing session. You can learn more about that at empathnow.com. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and I will be back again soon with a new podcast episode.